This might be the most versatile, practical and capable gravel bike I've ever tested. It is a brand new Canyon Grizl On, and a German company says it's built for off-road adventures and transforming the daily commute. Well, today we'll find out if that really is the case. I've devised a route to test its urban prowess and off-road capabilities. But first, before we hit the road, let me give you an overview of the bike and some of the details I really like after riding this bike for the last 2 months. So the new Grizl On is an e-bike and built around the new Bosch SX motor. This is a smaller, lighter weight, lower powered motor designed to give a more natural, organic feel compared to the really powerful, full fat e-bikes, and also designed to give a longer range as well. Range is claimed to be good for about 100 kilometers or 60 miles, and there is a range extender that doubles that range, which goes in the bottle cage and plugs into the charge port. As with most e-bikes, the range depends on many variables, like how much climbing you're doing, how fast you're pedaling, and which mode you use. And there are 4 modes to choose from, with a control unit on the top tube. It's a shame there's no additional control unit on the handlebar to more easily change modes when you are pedaling along. So the whole bike here, as you see it, is 15.3 kilos, which is heavier than a regular Grizl or Grizl, but pretty lightweight for an e-bike with a big battery in the down tube. It's a really well-designed bike with some really thoughtful details and a lot of integration as well, but in the best possible way. For example, we have front and rear lights built into the bike, and they are both powered off the frame battery. So you always have lights, no worry about charging the batteries on those lights. Another cool detail on this bike is the SRAM Access group set that's powered off the frame battery as well, so no extra batteries to charge down there. To really ensure maximum capability, both for dealing with potholes and roots and rocks off-road, we have a RockShot Rudy suspension fork giving it 40 millimeters of travel, and makes a lot of sense on a bike like this with the extra weight and speed it is capable of. We then have the really cool flexi seat post giving maximum comfort in the saddle, and coupled with 45mm wide tyres and clearance for 50mm wide tyres, you have maximum comfort, loads of cushioning for rough roads and rough trails. It's all brought together with a carbon fibre frame, which is perhaps a bit unnecessary on an e-bike, but does help keep the weight down. And I do like the frame storage, which is a carryover from the Grizl gravel race bike and can be easily removed, and is a great place to carry snacks, tools and spare clothing. Still with space for bottles in both bottle cages, which are side entry for easier access. And as you see right now, the bike can be fitted with Canyon's own mud guards and a rear rack to carry a bag. The Grizl On is priced from 5,000 euros up to 8,000 euros, and this model here costs 7,000 euros, for which you get a SRAM Force Access group set, very fancy DT Swiss carbon wheels, which are a bit overkill perhaps on a bike like this, the Schwalbe tyres, carbon fibre cranks, and Canyon's own handlebar seat post and a physique saddle. All very good quality kit, no corner cutting at all. So those are the main details. Let's go for a spin and see how it performs, first with a commute across town. Okay, let's start in town and see how the bike handles some urban cycling, potholes, angry motorists and much more. I've got mud guards and my pannier on with my lunch, shoes and laptop, so all ready to go for a day in the office. The bike gives a nice smooth ride on the rough roads and cycle paths. That suspension fork copes with potholes. The flexi seat post gives your bum a smooth ride. And the position on the bike is nice and compact, not very stretched at all. E-bikes are perfect for the commute. Got that powerful motor, help you get away from junctions and traffic lights really quickly. That stop-start nature of riding in traffic amongst all the motorists. But the same frustration persists with all e-bikes when the motor cuts out at about 15 miles per hour, which is a bit frustrating. you get up to speed really quickly, which is great, and then the motor cuts out and leaves you on your own. But at least the bike is light enough, you can still pedal at that speed and beyond that speed quite comfortably. Whee! Follow the cycle routes. Oh, it's just brilliant how quick the bike is, how quickly it gets up to speed. And even at the speed limits, when the assistance annoyingly cuts out, it still pedals okay, it still rides like a nice bike, it doesn't feel sluggish. Whee! Nice bit of infrastructure there. Using an e-bike for the commute does make a lot of sense. It definitely isn't cheating. Granted, the ride today is quite flat, but if you live somewhere hilly, like Bath or Brighton perhaps, the e-bike makes a lot more sense and really helps you on the hills and just saves you from getting too hot and sweaty when you ride into the office. Right, nearly at the office, the bike has performed extremely well in the urban setting. Getting away from junctions, traffic lights, and keeping up the flow of traffic, which is very stop-starty today, the motor really helps. It's smooth, natural, there's different modes to choose from, and it's very quiet as well. And I love the fact I have the optional mud guards and rear rack bag system. So for commuting, I have the Ortlieb waterproof bags, which clip on to the rear rack mudguard system. These mudguards clip onto the frame, the fork, very easily indeed. A little bit fiddly, but not super fiddly. And then we have this bag, which clips on very easily. It does work extremely well as a gravel bike. The assistance from the Bosch SX motor is smooth, it's seamless, it feels natural. It's fairly quiet as well. It definitely favours a high cadence, so pedaling at 90 RPM or above, which is what I do anyway. But yeah, it feels like a normal bike with a bit more oomph. And the weight of the bike is definitely hidden well by the natural assistance of this motor. E-bikes are an interesting one, aren't they? I do love the assistance and the speed and increased accessibility of e-bikes, and for lots of people it makes a lot of sense and they are really, really popular. I still personally struggle to get away from the idea that apart from cheating, not cheating as such, but having an easier ride than I probably need given my fitness. But the Bosch SX motor, I think other lightweight motors like this make a lot more sense. Getting a bit of assistance, but yet retaining that sort of normal feel of the bike. So the bike isn't doing all the work, I'm still doing lots of work. Still have to pedal the thing, still using all the gears, but just having a bit of help. And running in the two lower assistance levels really does work well for the bike. I mean, it's pretty lightweight at just over 15 kilos, so it doesn't need a lot of motor to hide that mass. And it does hide the mass of weight really well. Yeah, it feels like a chunkier bike than a regular gravel bike, but you find yourself going so much faster because you've got that motor to give you that tailwind, that little shove all the time, especially on the climbs. But you don't have to use all the motor, you can turn it down and still have to pedal hard and save it as an extreme gradient climbing aid perhaps. And if I turn it off, yeah, it feels heavy, feels a bit of dead weight compared to having a motor on, but it's not impossible to pedal. Right, that's enough of that. Ah, better. It's quite a compact, short, upright position from the saddle to the hoods. Quite a short, stubby stem. Could probably do with a longer stem, but the fit position is nice and comfortable at least. Oh my goodness me, is it muddy right now? This is where the power of the e-bike definitely helps. Tracking my way through that mud. You might think this is winter, judging by the mud, but it's actually spring. Nearly summer, for goodness sake. Slipping and sliding in the mud. I'll take down here, let's see where it goes. exploring, all part of the adventure. So unsurprisingly, it does work extremely well as a gravel bike. The chunky tyres, the 45mm wide Schwalbe tyre give plenty of grip and bite in the mud, kept me spinning through the gloopier sections of today's lovely trail conditions as the rain is falling right now. The RockShox Rudy suspension fork is something I've said how much I like in the past and does make a lot of sense on this bike. You have all the extra weight, but you have the power, so the small weight penalty of that fork is nothing really, given the whole system weight. And with the extra weight of the bike, when you are descending on a rocky trail, you're hitting on the bumps a lot harder and faster than a regular bike, so that makes a lot of sense. And makes a lot more sense than the Future Shop on the Specialized Creo 2 I rode last year. And then topped off with the Flexi seat post, which gives nice comfort in the saddle. There is a dropper version if you're doing really gnarly trails, but I think that seat post makes more sense than a dropper post personally. There are parts of the bike I don't think you really need on a bike like this. I mean, deep section carbon aero wheels on a bike like this, probably not. I'd rather have something shallower, aluminium, keep the price down. I would love a button on the handlebar for adjusting the 4 modes. Right now you can go up to a more powerful mode and then press and hold to go back down, and that's a bit slow and tedious. So a small button there, like we have for the headlight, would make a lot of sense and just give you that ability, the option to change mode more easily. But that said, I've been riding in the 2 different power modes and finding that's plenty for the riding I'll be doing, and using the gears, 12 speed, 1x SRAM Explore, to adjust my speed and cadence as suited, as needed by the terrain I'm riding on. This new Grizl On is definitely a lot of fun to ride, and it does transform the daily commute. Turns it from a sweaty, racing the clock speed fest into a relaxing, enjoyable affair, and get to the office not drowning in sweat. So that aspect of the bike I really enjoy. And then off-road, in the mud, in the woods, it's a lot of fun too. The geometry, suspension, the big chunky tyres, all work extremely well off-road, and does allow you to explore beyond your inbuilt limits, either going faster or further, or tackling rougher, hillier terrain that you might normally do on a regular non-assisted gravel bike. So if you are looking for an e-bike that's versatile, capable and practical, this new Grizl On is definitely a bike to consider. There are a growing number of bikes in this drop bar, wide tyre space, but I think the bike delivers better performance and capability than the Specialized Creo 2 I rode last year. So let me know what you think of the bike and whether it's a bike you are considering buying in 2024 by leaving a comment down below. And I'll put a link to their website down below as well if you want to check out the full range of models in the Grizl On range. And if you do want to see a review of that Specialized Creo to see how it compares to their bike, then watch this video right up here. And of course, don't forget to subscribe by hitting the button right here. But that is all for today. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you again very soon.